As a year characterized by interesting events, 2024 can be described as a period of the good, the bad, and ugly for the political landscape of Nigeria. From the off-cycle governorship elections to the tough policies of President Bola Tinubu, as well as the internal rifts within the major political parties, the country contended with many political crises in the year. Hence, political scientists see 2024 as a year of intrigues, suspense, and controversies. We have a report on all of the developments in the outgoing year. We'll bring you that subsequently. But I'm joined now by Executive Editor TVC News, Kayode, Ladeinde, to discuss this very interesting year last year. Thankfully, we're now in 2025.
Yeah.
One of the biggest highlights for me would be the political tussle in Rivers State. We saw that infighting between the two gladiators move to an extremely new level. None of us saw it coming, though, but it looks like they fought to the finish.
Yeah, maybe none of us in terms of those of us who are not in River State, you know. But basically, it was quite surprising for many of us that fight came so early. We're used to predecessor having some kind of rift with their successor, but we didn't see it coming that early because we felt, okay, there's been a clear tone that this man is not going to just walk away from River State. He's going to be supervising and monitoring quite a lot of things, and we saw it play out. And but guess what? The fight is not over. You know, as we speak, the rift is still on. But another major highlight for me was the fact that there were quite a lot of Supreme Court interventions in governorship election that happened the year before, that is preceding year 2023. And I think it's important, you know, the judiciary was put on a scale. They wanted to see whether the judiciary will redeem itself. But just for record, they should bear in mind that virtually everyone that won in that election were returned by the Supreme Court, including Kano State, where it wasn't the ruling party, because some have said that, oh, it's about the ruling party winning. But don't forget what happened in Kano, that the election was still sustained or upheld by the Supreme Court. So for me, it was quite an interesting year, and it's also for us to take a deeper look into our political culture, whether we are actually following the rule of law as the bedrock of democracy that we describe it.
We also saw some governorship election holding in the outgoing year, I think in Edo and Ondo State. It was another litmus test for INEC to see whether we've seen a lot of improvement. But politically, what we saw in Edo was that the incumbent governor at the time couldn't hold on to power that long. They said too many people in the opposition ganged up against him.
Yes, I think it was in politics, you do not allow your enemies to unite. That was what played out in Edo State, where you had the likes of the deputy governor then, you know, his SY godfather, and you saw them coming together. So it was quite difficult for you to win that kind of amalgamation of forces, you know, in such an election. And you're fighting against the ruling party. So when it comes to the war chest, when it comes to everything that will work, and it's also a case, you're also having, you know, the candidate also coming from the zone that is also preferred to in terms of rotation of power, which definitely PDP also put forward. But having said that, I think they've not exhausted all the appeal process.
Absolutely.
So we'll wait to see that. But in the interim, we have a new governor in the saddle from another party.
On the contrary, it looks like it was an easy ride for the Ondo State governor.
It was.
They said the political battle he had to fight was the post-Kayode war. And once that one was, you know, won, it was easy for him to
that's actually describe what happened, you know. Even I didn't even see the opposition, you know, fighting. I didn't really see the PDP, you know, pulling its weight to actually oust the incumbent. So for Ayedatiwa, it's just for him to deliver on the dividends of democracy, and every promise that he has made, he should bear in mind that Nigerians are watching.
Eventually, after firing Beta Edu earlier on in the year, we saw some mini reshuffling of the cabinet, you know, on Mr. President's side. Some were expecting it to happen earlier, but it appears he even added more numbers to, to his cabinet. Eventually, during the media chat, he mentioned that, well, if you have 200 million people, having 50 people serve them isn't too much. But what do you make of that particular reshuffle?
And so for me, for those who are calculating, we recall that there was a better Edu that needed to be replaced, who wasn't replaced before that cabinet reshuffle. There was the former governor of Plateau State, who was also moved to enjoy his senatorial victory in the court. So it was a case of let's add those vacant seats. So it wasn't a case of reduction. It was a case of absolute replacement for all the positions.
Late last year, we saw some members of the opposition moving in the House of Reps to the APC. You know, the 10th House of Representatives came with a lot of exciting new members from the opposition.
But they say there were varieties.
They say they are returning home now.
Yeah. So it's just to tell you that the major thing in the hearts of many politicians is how to get into the position. It's not really the philosophy or the ideology of any party. It's about how do I get there and how do I sustain myself there? How do I become relevant in the scheme of things? So. But it may not be a good thing for democracy, but it's just to say that oppositions have a lot to do for us to even have a contest in 2027.
Because the way it's going now, it's looking a bit tricky. Executive Editor Kayode Ladeinde, thank you for your thought.